We are live. Welcome everybody to our weekly live training right here in this group. One of our favorite week. We love this day. I am James Haney, and I am joined by my very special friend and partner, Jefe Grande, as we call him on the radio show. Ray Sasser, how are we doing tonight, Ray?
I don't think I like that handle. First of all, I think I'm being insulted. I'm not sure what the insult is. It just doesn't feel right.
Oh, you know you like it. You laugh about it on the radio show on Saturdays. You're always laughing about it when
well, I'm gonna have to look that word up because y'all might be calling me something I don't want to be called.
No, we have too much love for you to insult you.
Yes, I'm sure.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody again. Got another great topic, another great show tonight. Can you do us a favor and drop a comment? Let us know where you're tuning in from. Say hi. Keep those comments coming. The more comments we get, the more energy we have, the more we get into it. We feed off of you guys. We also have Hal, our producer. You guys can't hear him, but he is here. So as we're talking tonight, if you have any questions, drop those in the comments and we'll try to get to answer one or two of them by the end of the show tonight. And if we don't get to your question, then we can connect on a call tomorrow and get those questions answered, or we can simply reply to your question here on this video feed. So tonight we're going to be talking about the secret sauce of getting your offers accepted and being the best deal maker and real estate investor that you can be. And if you've been watching us for the past probably month and a half, we have been talking a lot about being CALM compliant. And so we're going to give just a little bit of an overview of that tonight. And there's going to be a couple areas where we are going to dive in, but CALM, Ray came up with this probably about 6 or 8 weeks ago, and he loves it and he got me turned on to it. And I absolutely love it too. So let me just run down. CALM is K is for knowledge and know-how, A is attitude, L is leads, and M is money. Do you want to add any to that, Ray?
Well, you call it calm. I like calling it be calm, because it's somebody. Tell me how this saying goes, James. It goes something like, "Don't talk about it, be about it." You heard that before? And it's like be calm. It's like I've got a little ball cap that I keep by my desk, and on the outside of it, in little letters, and nobody really even knows the letters there because nobody's going to take the time to read them. And it's on the side, and it says "Live Lucky." And then inside the hat, it's got "Live Lucky" 2 different places. And it's like a commitment, like be about it, don't talk about it, be calm, be that person, be that what you need to be successful. So
we actually expanded it just a hair, and now we call it be CALM compliant.
Yeah. And what's funny about that is, like, you'll talk to long-term investors and even people are beginning, and it's almost like, football is like, the main thing about football is to figure out how to get that piece of leather over the goal line, right? And the other team is stopping you from doing it. And you can make it as simple or complicated as you want, but it's really about get some know-how, focus on that. If you're a beginner, focus on the 1 or 2 things that are going to work, that we know works, that will always work. Work on that attitude, make sure the attitude is what it needs to be. And like, if you're an 8 to 5 person and you like sitting and controllable, knowing how outcomes are going to work out, maybe an 8 to 5 job is what you need to have. But if you're passionate and you love this kind of life and you love the freedom that you get with it, it's not total freedom because nothing's free. Janis Joplin said that, right? She said nothing's free. Yeah, I don't even know how it goes, but but nothing's free. But we do have a lot more time, control over how we spend our time. But attitude is like, you know what? I'm not taking prisoners, and I'm gonna do this my way, and I'm gonna fight every step of it. I'm not gonna give away my time and my bandwidth and my energy that keeps me from not focusing. So just have that attitude. And what I've seen, like with our students, the successful students are the ones that demand an outcome. They demand the outcome they need, and they may seem mean and callous on the outside to the people around them, but they're usually tougher on themselves than they are on the people around them. It's just, it shows through. It's just a whole part of it. Every part of every fiber of their body has to have that attitude. Like, I'm going to get this outcome. They just got to be like a moth heading to the light, and just don't stop till you get there. And then of course it's about leads. You have to become a master at getting leads. And I've probably spent, in the last 38 years of doing this, I spent probably a third or half of my time figuring out how to get leads. And there is no one answer that does everything. And even if there is, by the time you figure it out, the rest of the world figures it out. And then that stops being the answer. This year it's print and media. Last year it was text. The year before it was direct mail. The year before it was cold calling. And it's always going to be changing. And it's different for different styles of people. It's different for different places where you're at. It's different for what you're actually trying to do. Like, one of the things we're going to talk about, I think on the 4th, we're going to talk a lot about sub twos. And if you decide that I'm going to be a sub two master, I'm going to be that sub two ninja, well, you got to get the know-how, but there's also, those leads are going to come from a very specific way, a very specific place. So the leads are where you've got to spend a lot of time and energy getting up to speed. And a lot of it's trial and error, and it's changing. What worked yesterday isn't going to work today. And so you have to constantly be kind of leading the charge and being knowledgeable about it.
Yeah, there's an old country song that I like to listen to, and it's one of the main choruses is, the only thing that stays the same is everything changes.
Yeah.
So we're constantly market.
So yeah, that's more modern country. I'm from the old country, like the Hank Williams country kind of music, and the Bob Wells.
I get down with some Hank Jr. too.
I didn't say junior. I was talking senior.
But anyway, let's get back in here. What I would like to do is,
of course, the M is for money, but it just to finish that up, I'm done with it. But except that it's really the fundamentals. It's the same fundamentals over and over and over. We just got to figure out, like, what's working now, what's the best way to optimize it, and what's the best way to execute. And I'm done, James. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. I just want to go back through this, and Ray, I did send you, the notes here, but I want to give some pointers, some bullet points on each one really quick, and then I'm going to give you permission to go down a rabbit hole here in a few minutes. But on knowledge, it's one thing for us to sit here and say, hey, you got to get the knowledge and everything. But we want to kind of give you a narrow focus on some things to focus on. And Ray actually touched on quite a few of them. But as far as knowledge, and Ray, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but marketing and lead generation, like Ray said, become an expert at that, marketing and lead generation. Then you want to focus on property evaluation, for example, comps and repair costs. You want to be able to evaluate properties. And then deal structure. You want to know how to structure deals and talk to sellers, which that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about on the 4th. And so those are a few things you want to look at on knowledge for the K. Attitude, I'm going to go ahead and run down the list of leads here and money, and then I'm going to hand it back over to Ray, because I think of attitude on my part is mindset, but Ray is really passionate on attitude, and so I want him to kind of talk about that a little bit more. But in leads, and I hope you guys are writing this down. I forgot to mention that before I started running through these. Write these down, and we can even send them to you if you'd like me to. But leads, actively marketing and generating leads. Utilize social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Those are huge in today's world. And then utilizing systems and processes and people with marketing skills. One of the things that we always do is we find somebody that's good at something and they're better than us at it, and we employ that person, so that we can focus on what we're good at and what the best use of our time is. And so that's one of the things that we recommend on that part. And then money, when it comes to money, it's more about knowing how money works and where to get it. And once you know that, then you can go after, and like we tell our students, find leads, find money, find money, find leads. That should be your primary focus. And there's a lot of different sources for that. So Ray, do you want to go through attitude? I know you're really passionate about attitude.
I think as you're younger, you don't really know kind of what type of behavior gives you the kind of results that they end up giving you. And I think as you get older and you have children, you have partners, you have, like my wife's been my partner for 30 years, and you're more interconnected with the social fabric of your life and everything. And you look at what successful people have generally done and how they've done it, and then also people who have not been successful. And like in my life, there's been a lot of people who are just not here anymore. They died when they're 32, they died when they're 40 or 50 or 60, and you just see how their lifestyles affected them. And there's certain traits, and like I said earlier, with our students that have really done good, they just don't know how to take no for an answer. They believe it's like that hat that says live lucky. They believe in the outcome. And a lot of times it's not based on real knowledge that, hey, I know I'm going to get this outcome. They just believe it. It's like there's a suspension of, I don't know, of rational thinking, and they just believe that they're going to get that outcome, and they don't know that they're not, and they just keep plugging away and keep plugging away. And you can just see it. Like, it's kind of neat. Like if we're like on a situation where we're talking with a seller, and the students that will always succeed are the ones that they're not going to let that person get off the phone if they're a prospect until that prospect demands that they get off the phone. I mean, you're like that. It's like they're going to get that answer. And the skillful people are going to learn how to do things like read books like How to Win Friends and Influence People, or Steve Covey, or not Covey, Chris Voss's book on Never Split the Difference. They're gonna learn some tools and grab some tools, and they're gonna try to become better at trying to convert people. In fact, many years ago, Charles and I started a negotiation training that we do once a year, and I was all for it because I knew that if I could teach that, we've been practicing it, but if I could actually teach it and become good at teaching it and really understand why we do what we do, then it'll improve my opportunity to convert. And it's like my whole life has been designed, not intentionally, but it's like my whole life's been designed to be a conversion machine, to basically get people to figure out how to get people to give me the outcome that I want, whether it's a seller, whether it's a contractor. And it's like, I don't even get mad at the contractors. I know that, I think my wife can hear me and she'll probably be shouting at me pretty soon, but it's like, I just don't even get mad at the contractors that aren't performing very good, because it's like, my goal is not to worry about if they're not performing, where they're at. My goal is to get that outcome. And if I can help them be better at getting that outcome, then that's what we're going to do. We're going to figure out how to make people better at getting that outcome for us. Not just for them, but it learn how to control that experience, that relationship, so that if I've got a tenant, that they're going to pay regularly. And if I'm getting mad or getting upset or having knockdown, drag out fights, and I don't become a smarter and I don't get more tools to cope with those problems and help them understand how to overcome those problems, then I'm going to become the bottleneck. I'm going to become the reason why they're not successful or why they're not going to be able to do what they promise. So attitude's everything. You don't need these other three things. You need the attitude, and the other three things will come along. The leads will come along, the know-how will come along, the money will come along. But somehow you've got to believe that you're going to make this happen.
I was just fixing to say that another element to attitude is not only believing in getting the outcome, but believing yourself. It's a big part of it, especially when you're first starting out. Because sometimes it can be overwhelming.
I think I've always been real competitive, and I think I've always sort of believed in myself. But when you're competitive, and you're playing competitive sports, you lose regularly. I mean, because you're challenging yourself. But I think if you're the sign of a real competitive person is like they dare somebody to beat them. And it's because I want your A game. I want you to give me your best. Whether it's playing ping pong or tennis or bowling or pool, I want to taunt you. Right. And it's not, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me, because I want to make sure that I'm forced to give 100% to what I'm doing. And I'm not good around people who are not 100%ers. If that guy's in a hurry to get off the phone because it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, that's probably not going to be a guy that I work with very long, because that's not my kind of person. It's all about the outcome, and there's not a stopwatch or a clock on the when you're passionate, right? If you don't have even if it's your job or anything, if you don't have a calling that that's not more important than the clock on the wall, you're not living that life. I just don't think you're living that full life. You're never going to live it. And the heck with that. I'd rather be I'd rather be in the right room with the right kind of people, much more than I'd rather be the expert or the winner or anything else. I just want to be hanging out with people that I look up to and admire. And there's so many people that are 20, 30, 40 years younger than me that I just look up to and admire. Not because I probably have more specific knowledge on a lot of things than they do, as far as real estate investing, but it's what's in their heart. It's like I admire and look up to their heart and their drive. And to me, that's so invigorating just to be around those kind of people. That's why we do the RIAs. I mean, it gets the people around you that you just feed off of each other. And it doesn't matter if one of us is 22 and the other one's 82, and it's kind of cool to be around I remember I was going to the gym about a year ago, and there's an 85-year-old man coming out, and he was kind of feeble, but he's coming out of the gym, and he fought in World War II. He was in the battles in World War II, and talked a lot. And we stopped to talk for a few minutes. But I could see at 82 years old or 85 years old, he still had that gleam in his eye, that passion. He'd been alive his whole life. Every minute of his life, he's been alive. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. I want to be alive my whole life, and I want to be alive in every minute of it.
Well, part of almost everything you do in life, whether it's sports, like you mentioned, bowling and pool and different things like that, it's 90% mental and 10% physical, and psychological. So if you hang around
98% mental and 10% physical.
90 mental and 10 physical. Yeah.
Right.
No, yeah. I'm not that great at math, but I'm able to do 90 and 10. So, but yeah, and that was one of the big things that hurt me in my bowling career was my mental game wasn't right.
With
And
right before, yeah. Well, yeah, and so just hanging around those people, you got to hang around. Like, and I don't know what the number is for bowling, but let's say a great bowler is a 200 average and a professional bowler is a 215 average or 220. I don't know what the break points are, but you need to hang around the guys that are bowling 220 because they broke through. You know, that those extra 5 or 10 points is the difference between watching them on TV or being the guy on TV. And so, and you probably know the numbers better than I do, but that's the way it is in life. And you've got to be, what is it that got them that extra 5 or 10 points? Because that's the difference that makes all the difference. And it's attitude. That's all attitude. It's 100% attitude on that level. You know, it's, I don't know what else to tell you about that. I mean, you just, by the way, and I think Dan can hear me, so hopefully she won't disagree with me, but I remember before we got married over 30 years ago, I just said, I said, you're not going to have a normal life if you hang around me because I'm get in over my head. I have to fight my way out of the holes that I get in. And I don't want to change. It's just, my life is too engaging, it's too fun, too much fun, and I'm not going to change. And I think if you ask her now, next time you're around her, ask her, say, well, did he keep his promise? And she'll say, yeah, he kept his promise.
yeah, I'll have to ask her. I already know.
But that's what life is. I mean, life is supposed to be an adventure. You know, if it's not an adventure, you need to redo this thing. You need to start over. You need to have a reset.
So let's talk a little bit more. Let's switch gears a little bit because that was a nice old rabbit hole there. Let's talk a little bit more about money and knowing how it works. You know, so
You
that
said
we
life,
all-
James. You said life and something and knowing how it works. I didn't hear that life and something.
No, money.
Okay.
Money.
Okay.
Everybody loves to talk about money, so let's talk a little bit about money. We did talk a little bit last week on the live when we were talking about that subject to deal, and we went through the SHIPS acronym, talking about the different sources of money.
I'll probably screw this up, but I saw something by that a quote of Warren Buffett's I've never heard, which kind of surprised me. But it's something like, if you don't learn how to make money when you're sleeping, you'll work for money for the rest of your life. And you know, that's I'm glad. In fact, we need to put that on the Facebook page because that's the whole theory of our Facebook page. It's massive passive. You know, it's about making money when you're asleep. It's about doing that job one time and getting paid over and over and over. And every opportunity, everything we do, every part, every fiber of our body and our mind has to be dedicated to making money while we're asleep. I mean, he said it so brilliantly, and I'm surprised I've never seen that quote before. But how do you make money? By just being alive, you know, just by managing those outcomes. And I saw something the other day where somebody said rental properties are not passive, and I thought, you know, I don't know what passive means, but I know that active means getting up at 8 o'clock, punching in, and then working till 5, and then hope like heck they don't ask you to work overtime. That's not passive. That's active. Passive to me is probably not entirely correct definition, but passive is setting something up once, doing the bulk of the work the first time, and just do a little management on it from time to time. And you know, Jack Miller, early on, I came across Jack Miller. Thank God he was on this earth, and thank God that I ran across his path because he just changed the way I think about things in so many areas. And early on, he had a little class on how to property manage, and we were doing our property management completely wrong. I changed to his way of doing it, and it went from being an active enterprise to a passive enterprise, and it just changed everything. And so I'm just so fortunate that I ran across him, and And so making money when you're sleeping is our goal. How to set up something once and just keep collecting on it and keep collecting on it. And if you're a flipper, that doesn't qualify. If you're a wholesaler, that doesn't qualify. If you got an 8 to 5 job, that doesn't qualify. Now, all three of those things are ways to become a passive investor. They're enablers. They're kind of a catalyst that gets us in that place, especially the one with wholesaling and the one with being a flipper, because now you are learning how to close transactions. You are learning how to control transactions. You're learning how to find the properties. You're close enough to making passive investments that occasionally they're going to come along, even if it's accidental, they're going to come along, and you're going to be able to put some of those in your portfolio. So that qualifies to me. That makes sense. But why not just sidestep all that mess and just go straight to passive investing? And I'm not saying it's possible. First of all, I know it's possible because a lot of my buddies have done it. I struggle with it forever. We've pretty much done it. But it is something to aspire to, just like I know that you aspired to be a professional bowler. It's something to aspire to, and you're never going to get there if you don't start trying to work towards it. And there's definitely certain things we can do that more of our effort will be dedicated to that outcome. For example, if you're a garbage truck driver, very little of your effort is going to be dedicated to that outcome. If you're a flipper, it's very easy to transition from flipping to that. If you're a wholesaler, it's very easy to transition from going from a wholesaler to a buy and hold guy. And so our question is, well, what are those transitions? How do we make those transitions? What do we do to make those transitions? When do I know that this is that opportunity that I shouldn't be flipping it, I should be holding on to it, or I shouldn't be wholesaling, I should be holding on to it? And it's not rocket science, but a lot of times it's just you're just missing one piece. You got 7 of the 8 things right, and you just don't have that 8th one, so you just give up. And that's why you got to reach out to the people around you. It's like you can take the 10th, or you're an NFL fan. I'm not anymore, but I stopped being an NFL fan a couple of years ago. But the worst professional quarterback is not much different than the best professional quarterback. The difference between them could be just one little mechanical thing that they're doing wrong. It could be one little wrong way of thinking about an opportunity, and so they end up staying as the worst quarterback in the NFL, which means that they're the 29th best quarterback in the universe, right? But the 28th best quarterback in the universe still is the worst quarterback in the NFL. Is there 28 NFL teams?
32.
Okay, so forget the 28. It's the 32. So what is it that gets you from the 33rd or the 32nd to the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd? Those are the ones that make the real money. What is it that gets you to that point? And it's just tweaking things. It's just a little different way of looking at something. It's how does that wholesaler all of a sudden say, you know what, I'm wholesaling 20 deals a year. If I make this change, I can do buy and hold for 1/4 or 1/5 of the deals, and in 3 years I never have to work again. What does that tweak? What does that change? And those are the things that we try to answer those questions, and we've got a lot of those answers. So that's what we try to work on with our students, whether the person's a pro or whether they're doing their first deal. And it's easier to make a lot of money for people who are already doing deals because we don't have to go through the basics. With the new students, we have to kind of slow down. We got to go through the basics. But with the more advanced students, it's a lot more fun because then we can say, well, what is it you're doing? How are you doing it? What is it you're missing? Why are you the 32nd best at this instead of the 3rd best or the 2nd best? And so that's what we try to do. Money is a big part of that. Just understanding how money works, what the mechanics of the money are, where they come from. I think on the 4th, is it the 4th or the 25th? We're going to talk a lot about subject twos.
Well, both, but we're going to be talking about this Saturday is the 4th. We're gonna dive a little bit deep into subject to and creative financing,
Yeah.
and that's going to be an online webinar on Zoom. So if you guys are wanting to participate in that, drop that Zoom comment in the comments, and I'll make sure that you get the information on that. But it's going to be this Saturday from, I believe it's going to be 2 o'clock to 3:30, where we're going to be talking about, subject to and creative financing, and how to get into that and add that to your toolbox.
Can I just take a kind of carry on from what I was saying and just tie it into the sub two? Is that okay? So let's say that a wholesaler could do 20 deals a year. I had a student that when I talked to him, we got him up, and I say we, because he did all the heavy lifting, so he deserves the majority of the credit. But he went basically from 0 deals to 12 deals a year. And then we kind of lost touch. I mean, because he kind of graduated and everything. Well, he came to an event, and the next year or a year later, he was up to 24 deals. And I said, well, how many are you buying and holding? And he said, none. And I said, the guy's a single guy. When you're doing 24 deals a year, he's making probably $250,000 to $350,000 net, right? So I said, well, this is insane. If the market changes, you're going to be unemployed. You're going to be like the wholesaler that I let him live in one of my houses the last time the market changed, because he was a wholesaler and he didn't do nothing else. And I sat down with him. I said, let's go to lunch. I sat down with him. He wasn't a student anymore, but once you build that relationship, you're always partners for, in some level, you're always friends or partners from that point on. So I sat down with him and I said, well, you're telling me you can't take any of these deals and hold on to them? He said, yeah, but I'm not sure I want to. And I said, well, why not? Let's look at this. And I said, when you make 7 to 10 times more money as a buy and hold guy than a wholesaler does, why are you giving away 6/7 of what you make? Why are you giving away whatever that is, 80% or it's 84, 85%? Why are you giving away 84, 85% of the deal when you don't have to give it away? I get it. If you're not making 100K doing your wholesaling, then just do wholesaling. But when you start making 250, 300K a year, and you're taking that money in, first of all, you're spending it all. It's not a forced savings account, so you spend it all. It's all gone. You just buy out. You buy Bentleys. Of all the things in the world to buy, is why in the world would you buy a Bentley? Because a Bentley is stupid. Okay, now if you're the 2 or 3 guys that buy a Bentley, I'm not saying you're stupid. I'm just saying buying a Bentley is stupid. Okay. Take that money, instead of taking it as a wholesale fee, take that 1 out of 5 deals. Now, with Mr. S, the guy I'm talking about, with Mr. S, if he would have taken 1 out of 20 deals, that's 4 deals he's buying and holding a year. In 3 or 4 years, that's 16 deals that are buy and hold deals that are probably cash flowing somewhere between 300 to 700 a year. The value's going up every year. The balance on debt is going down every year. He's getting depreciation, right? So he's getting all these benefits from it. He's not having to pay taxes on it because he's not selling it like a wholesale fee requires you to pay. He's getting that benefit. He's building his net worth. In 3 or 4 years, he's got 12, 15, 17 properties. He could quit at that point, especially with those good cash flows. Or what if the market changes 3 years from now and it forces them to quit wholesaling, right? Like I'm starting to see that now. It's like a month ago, there were no deals to be had anywhere. And then in the last 3 weeks, it's like I've got 10, 15 deals from wholesalers trying to give these deals away. And if the buyers stop buying, which they did in 2008, then all the wholesalers will go out of business in a year. They're gone, right? They're gone. And then the buy and hold guys like me are going to be, those deals are not going to be taken over, and we're going to pick and choose. And these apartments that are selling for $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 per unit, we're going to start buying them again for $15,000 a unit. So why doesn't he get into that game now? Why doesn't he take a percentage of that money, put that money in forced savings? And you know, when you have that house or that property that's increasing in value every month, and it's increasing appreciation. Last year, the appreciation for a $250,000 house was 20%. Think about that. If I put $20,000 in that, and the appreciation was 20%, that means it went up $50,000 in value. It went up $50,000. I put 20% in that. That's a 250% return on that $20,000 investment. Now, does that happen every year? No. But the other thing that happened is I had a renter paying that, right? If I did it right, I may have got a big part of that $20,000 back. And so my return could potentially be 500% or 1,000%. And then on top of that, their debt, the person in the house is paying off the mortgage. So anyway, so why not pull one out of 3 houses or 1 out of 4 houses and buy and hold it? And that's the secret sauce. If there's a secret sauce, it's like, how do we figure out how to not wholesale or not flip and hold on to these properties?
Well, here's another example of how that works. Also, you remember that deal that we did? It was probably 4.5, 5 years ago, where the seller was having a new house built and everything.
Oh yeah, we were dealing with the mom, the broker
Yeah.
mom. Yeah, she was hard. She was hard at bills.
That deal, like I said, was about 4.5, 5 years ago. And I went back in January and I looked at that deal and did a case study right here for our group. Well, when I did that case study, I found that even though
you started crying, right?
big time, because I made a $16,000 assignment fee, which was great and fine and dandy at the time. But now, in 4 years, that property appreciated over $50,000, and the rent increased about $400 or $500. So we discovered that I actually left around $100,000 on the table. So what if you had that? Let's just say, again, it doesn't happen every day, but what if you could do one of those deals a quarter, over the next 5 years? That's 20 deals. And if you average $100,000 increase, that's $2 million. What could you do with that? And that's just doing, minimum.
That, and just imagine if you did 1 deal per quarter, you would retire. If you're an investor, or let's say you're a wholesaler or a flipper, what ends up happening is you start aligning yourself with deal opportunities, and these deals just fall in your lap. And I'm maybe exaggerating on that a little bit, but every time I reach out, I come very close to making a deal. I just on Facebook alone, people post deals on Facebook, and I look at them, and it's like, these are deals. They're everywhere. And so, some people have a very narrow window. They're very specific. And I don't know if Larry's on the phone, but when we did that 4-house deal in San Antonio, it's like he's all nervous and he's talking, and it's just like too much drama. It's like, no, Larry, it'll just follow its course. I got Aubrey on it. She'll take care of it. She'll tell us when we're supposed to close. We'll figure out how to get the money to the closing, and then we'll fix it, and then we'll just get it done. And so these things just kind of fall in your lap, and you just do them. And the ones you can buy and hold, you buy and hold. And I would say we buy and hold. I went from buy and hold at maybe 15 to 20% to now we buy and hold 80%. And I think it's not just because my life has changed. It's because I'm such a big believer in it that I figure out ways to buy and hold. I figure out how to make that wholesale fee or put that money in the bank account, but I'm still the owner of the property. What a wholesaler does is he figures out how to make that wholesale fee, and then after the smoke clears, there's nothing left. What we want to do is figure out how to buy and hold, make the wholesale fee, and when the smoke clears, we now have that regular income every month. That's the difference. And I think my life has changed, uh, but it's changed in two ways. One is we don't have to sell everything we make anymore. That's really a big thing. But the other thing is, like, even if I had to sell things every time, I would figure out how not to sell them. Like, I would figure out how to borrow $10,000 from a financial friend, more than what I need for the deal. I'd put the $10,000 in my pocket to live on, and I'd put the rest of the money in the deal. And it's just not much more complicated than that. Now, if we learn how to do sub twos, we're going to learn how to bring partners in. We're going to learn how to set these things up. We're going to learn how to put them in our inventory, and we're going to figure out how to hold on to a lot more of them. Anytime the money is being brought to the table by some other means, it gives us an opportunity to buy and hold more of the deals. So there's nothing wrong with going after those kinds of deals. We're just not going to do stupid deals like what I see a lot on the internet. There's a lot of people doing the sub twos. They've only seen the market go up, so they all look like geniuses. We're not going to do you're only a genius when the market goes up kind of deals, right? We're not going to do the marginal deals. And the marginal deals, you look like a genius until the market goes down, then you look like a criminal. So we're not going to do those.
Okay, so it is now 6:45. We got about 10 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions? Drop them in the comments. And Hal, if you see any of those questions, send them through the Zoom chat for us so that I can ask them to Ray. We'll take one or two questions, and then we'll wrap up. And just to remind everybody, or if anybody else has joined in, in the middle of it and didn't hear, Saturday we're going to be doing a subject to webinar, subject to and creative finance. So if you want to be a part of that, drop Zoom in the comments, and I'll reach out to you tomorrow and get you the information on that. As I was talking, I did see a question come through, and Emma wants to know what your favorite source of leads is.
I'm ashamed to admit this because it maybe means I'm a little too lazy, but wholesalers is where it's at. I would say 7 or 8 years ago, we were probably buying a third or half of our deals from wholesalers. Now I would say we're buying about 70 or 75% of our deals from wholesalers. Wholesalers tend to make $5,000 to $10,000 per deal, sometimes a lot more. I was talking to a buddy of mine today, and he started the same time I did, and he drives around the country in his motorhome all year long now. And we were talking about where the deals came from and stuff like that, and what kind of deals he's getting. And we both agreed that wholesalers, they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting now, and they're finding the deals. And as long as, the numbers make sense, then we're buying from wholesalers. So now the question is, and I don't think we can talk about it for a minute, but I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole. There's a real technique in working with wholesalers. For example, a lot of areas have really good wholesale operations. A lot of like Houston and San Antonio, a lot of the big cities have pretty good wholesale operations where there might be a 10 or 20 man team that are wholesaling properties, or they're really, really good at finding top buyers, top dollar buyers. I generally don't work with those wholesalers, and it's not because I don't want to. It's just that I don't. They need more money than what I'm willing to pay for the deal. They can get the buyers who are willing to pay too much, in my opinion. And I just don't need the deals that bad. And we have to make that, there's a formula basically, like if you're going to flip or hold on to it, you got to especially a flip, you got to make a 15% margin on those deals. So if you're paying much more than 70 to 75%, you can't make that 15% margin. It's ARV minus or times 70% minus repairs. If you're paying much more than that, you're not going to make that 15% spread on your average rehab. So that's kind of our litmus test. If you're dealing with the wholesalers that are really, really good at getting their list, they're selling at 80, 85, 90%. And that's fine for those people that haven't been through a down cycle. I've been through 4 or 5 of them. So it's not fine with me because I'm going to make money. My goal is to make money in up and down markets. That means I can't buy marginal deals. But so wholesalers are where it's at. There's a certain way to work with wholesalers. Wholesalers need you. They don't know typically a lot about what they're doing. They don't know a lot about what we do. They might know more about wholesaling than they know about what investors do. They may not know how to put the deals together. They may not know how to do the title searches. They may not know how to evaluate the deals properly. So if you're that kind of person that puts yourself out there to help those wholesalers, they can be very loyal and very happy to work with you. And beginning wholesalers think it's about making every possible dollar until they lose 3 or 4 deals because they got greedy and they went with the wrong buyer. And then once that wholesaler gets burned 2 or 3 times, then they realize, you know what, I don't need to make top dollar. I need to work with somebody I know that's going to close. So if you're a serious buyer, and this is a kind of what James would call a golden nugget, is if you're a serious buyer, then the way to appeal to wholesalers to put you at the top of their list is make sure they know that you're going to close, right? Make sure that they can trust you. Make sure that that when they give you an opportunity to buy that deal, you don't screw it up and then they lose the opportunity to make their wholesale fee. So you've got to make that work for them. And so the wholesalers that have done a little, they're happy to work with you. And at some point, they may come along and be able to sell their deals at 90 or 95 cents on the dollar, and you should back out of those. You just shouldn't be there. But like if you're that wholesaler, I always try to set my life up where I can close in 2 or 3 days. I can do my due diligence that fast. And then when that person flakes out on them, then even that wholesaler's got a great buying list, he's still going to come back to me. So I'm not looking for the best wholesalers in town. And I'm not looking for the wholesalers that I have to do a lot of training on to literally become a free student. I'm looking for that wholesaler who's kind of out there making the deals happen. And then if they pick up the phone and say, Ray, I got a problem over here. I don't know how to fix this title issue. I'll spend the time with them because I'll probably get first crack at their deal if they can make it work. So they say a rising tide raises all boats. That's what you want to be. If you're a real buyer, then help your wholesalers be successful and they'll pay you back. It's the law of reciprocity, and it works.
Well, Ray, we're gonna have some homework tomorrow because we have some great questions coming in, and some of these questions are some that you got to spend probably 10 or 20 minutes answering. So I'm gonna need you to go through tomorrow and answer some of those questions if possible, or we can answer them on Saturday. But one last question, it is one of those long answer questions, but you can shorten it. Matt, one of our students, he asked, what do you look for in a partner? What would make a good partner and a good partnership? Now, I do know that's actually in San Antonio at the Alamo Ria on Thursday the 9th. That's what you're going to be talking about. And then also down here in Houston at our meeting in Houston, you're also going to be talking about that. But for our viewers that are outside of our area, just kind of a 3-minute, give you 3 minutes. What makes a good partner?
So I was lucky early on when I was 11 years old and my brother was 10. We became partners in our paper route together, and him and I, we're still partners, whatever that is. 54 years later, we're still partners on a lot of deals. And I'm just so lucky to have somebody like Audie who is just like as good as gold. And I think if they got a good heart and they get up and go to work every day, that's number one, right? You got to deal with people that are just good people, just like working with you, James. It's been such a pleasure because you take a lot of abuse from me and you keep plugging away. And I admire and respect that so much in you. And I think that's what you got to think about. At the end of the day, your partner's like your brother, right? You got to do whatever you can to take care of him, no matter if he makes you feel like a bum. You got to remember that above all else, we're in the same foxhole together. We're going to get through this together. And I never try to make problems personal, right? I really just go headstrong into what the problem is. How do we overcome it? So I think good heart, good work ethic. I've had two different contractors say, "Oh, well, we can buy that tool from Home Depot and take it back." I've had that in this town I'm working. I had two different contractors say the same thing. I said, "Well, I don't do that because that means if the contractor will do that, that means it's okay for him to steal because I think that's stealing." So they got to have a good moral compass. Now, a good partner too is like if an old person that's real skillful, that really, really cherishes their time and their time's important to them, they might want to be partners with a younger person who's happy to learn and who's happy to give up their time and who's willing to take good direction. So that's a good partnership. Somebody that's where the roles are clearly spelled out, where one person's taking responsibility and has a talent to take care of a responsibility, and the other person has a talent. For example, I'm like a visionary, and my brother's like an operations kind of person. So like I'll have ideas and thoughts. He's the guy that actually gets it done. And so you kind of need both of those. But that doesn't mean the visionary gets away with not working his ass off too. He's got to roll his sleeves up and work too. So those are good partners. Another example of good partners: somebody's got the money, somebody's got the time, or somebody's got the money, somebody's got the lead. Be careful. I made a lot of mistakes with partnerships, and we're going to talk a lot about that. I'm glad that they asked me to lead that conversation with both groups, because we're going to try to figure out what makes a good partnership and what makes a bad partnership. If you're dealing with crooks, it's never going to be a good partner. If they don't have a moral compass, it's never going to be a good partnership. If the deal is more important than the relationship, it's never going to be a good partnership. If the relationship is like a 20,000 foot view, it's like, where are we going to be doing 5 years from now? As a partner saying, what are we going to be doing 5 years from now? That's the kind of partner I want. If a partner saying, hey, we're doing this deal and we're out, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in that one and done type deal. When I get a partner, I want to be a partner for life. And our students, I mean, that's the way that a lot of the students are. There's people that we're still doing deals 5 and 10 years later with our partners. Anytime you can fill a hole that needs to be filled, that makes you a potential partner in that deal. If you're a wholesaler, you are prime partner material because you're bringing the deal to the table. You have a say-so on who you bring to the dance with you. So when wholesalers give away all their work, all their talent, all their trouble, and they give that to somebody like me, and they don't demand to be a partner in that relationship, they're just cheating themselves. So I don't know if that really answers the question, but those are some of the.
That was a lot of great nuggets there. I hope everybody was writing those things down. But as we mentioned, September 9th in San Antonio, it's a Thursday evening at the Alamo Ria. You're going to be talking about this more. And then in Houston, and there's also going to be there's going to be networking and dinner provided as well in San Antonio. And then also,
they're really good. The food there is really good. So,
and then in Houston, we have the event on September 11th. That's going to be a morning event, so that we're going to have breakfast and networking. So all of our information as far as our events, we're going to put a comment in the link, a link in the comment down below, so you can see our calendar of events coming up. And if you want to know more information, just reach out, or I can reach out to you via messenger. So that's the end of our show tonight. I thought it was really, really fun. Talking about being calm compliant. I think you really struck gold on that one, Ray.
Yeah, and was it you that got the lady with the magnifying glass?
Yeah, on the Facebook post.
Yeah, be calm, compliant with a magnifying. Yeah, that was, you did perfect. So,
Yeah. All right, guys, that's it. We're gonna sign off. We will see you guys this weekend at the on Saturday. Drop Zoom comment, and I'll make sure that you get that information. We also have our radio show Saturday morning as well. On that note, good night, everybody. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Hal, and we will see you guys later.
thank you guys. Bye.